Welcome to Emerge and Empower Podcast TV, a platform where resilience meets transformation. Here, we amplify voices that have faced trials, trauma, and adversity, stories that inspire hope, healing, and empowerment. Every episode brings raw, unfiltered conversations with individuals who have risen from hardship, embracing faith, strength, and purpose. Join us as we break the silence, uplift one another, and emerge stronger together. New episodes air Wednesdays at 6 p.m. English and Saturdays at 6 p.m. with select Saturdays in Creole for our Haitian audience.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Emerge and Empower with your host, yours truly, Dr. LinJ. And it's always an honor to be able to sit in this seat and have these conversations, right? I believe that we are all called for a purpose, and daily we find out what that is, right? The more you live, in my experience, in the time that I have been here on earth, I find that you learn, you grow, and you keep growing. I'm always one that's always been big about growing and keep growing. What's the next? Always want to know, want to prepare for tomorrow. Some things, though, in life we don't prepare for, they just happen to us. Circumstances, situations that just come about. They'll come about because the environment that we live in, the family that we are part of, the friends that we have, the choices that we make. So a lot of things just happen, right? Some, on the other hand, are choices, like I said in the beginning. You choose to go here, there. You choose to do this or that. But on Emerge and Empower, we are talking about with individuals who have gone through traumatic experiences, right? Now, you might be looking at me and says, "Well, I never faced any trauma, or it wasn't that deep." Every trauma is traumatizing. In truth, it left a mark on your life. It brought changes to your behavior. It brought changes to how you react to things. We're all reacting from something. Yeah, you can say that. We're all reacting from something. So, on today, I have a special guest. Her name is Jen, and she'll be coming in to tell us her why. Why she does what she does today, but who was she yesterday? And she's going to take us through her journey. Now, what you need to do, you know what I'm always saying, we need you to subscribe, like, and share. Get into those subscriptions, all right? Get into those subscriptions, subscribe, for we would love to have more of you as our following. We would love to have more comments and would also like to have your feedback. So you could tell us some of the things that you would like to experience on the show, what topics you would like to hear. These are things that we would like to hear from you. Are we on the right track? Do we keep going and doing what we're doing? We need those thumbs ups. We need those likes. We need those interactions. All right. So that is how it grows. You already know how social media moves, right? No one have to tell you. You know how social media move. So that is what we are also expecting here. Nothing less here on the set. Nothing less. All right. So we will be right back as we bring Jen, our special guest, on. Hello, and welcome back. Welcome back. We have the beautiful Jen on today as she is on Emerge and Empower, and we are truly happy that she is on. And can't you see? It's just a pink, flavor going on here. The joy is here, and of course, I'm in my favorite color. She's in my favorite color, and we're just pinking it today, right? And
Yes.
that is what happens when you heal. You just want to to just be in your favorite colors. You just want to radiate. You have confidence that comes about through the journey of healing. Jen, welcome to Emerge and Empower on today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I got up this morning. I had a smile on my face, ready to go today. And I love that you have this space for us to sit today. I'm so excited.
So we're happy. Let's welcome Jen. Yes, yes,
Yay!
yes, yes. To Emerge and Empower. We love to celebrate change and healing and transformation. Okay, it's all good vibes over here. Good vibes.
Got
So
my
Jen, we're gonna
butterfly dress
go.
on today.
Oh yes, let me see that. Look like a butterfly type of thing.
Yeah, little butterfly dress.
Yes. I love it. And butterfly is my color. I love butterflies because it represents the transformation, all right? When as a
Absolutely.
caterpillar sometimes don't survive to even become a butterfly, right? But to get
Mhm.
to that point, to go to the process, get into the cocoon and come out, oh my God, it's just beautiful. I love that transformation. So Jen, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Jen, or sometimes called Pink Hair Jen for obvious reasons. And I'm here in the Dallas area. I am my vocations are, I'm a wedding photographer and a conceptual artist, and I'm also now a speaker. And but to get to the place to say those things, it's been such a journey. That's a part of my healing as well. And really, I'm a person who has always loved connecting with people. Even in my introverted days, I loved connecting with people. I loved art. I still love art. It's a running thread throughout my whole life. And as you hear my story, you're gonna see how art has really been there for me every step of the way. And I have a lovely little family here in Dallas as well as my two wonderful cats.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, we're gonna just dive right into your story because
Yeah.
people already know we're not here to just chat. People are like, what is her story? Is she relatable? Will there be someone on the show that I can relate to? Well, everyone always finds someone that they can relate to, and I believe you two will find Jen relatable. So, Jen, we're gonna dive right into your story. Who is Jen in a nutshell? Tell us about her as a person.
So there's a starting point that I feel like was such a turning point in my life. And it was about the same time I leaned into photography is when we decided to start a family. And I'm going to go real deep, real fast because this is a huge piece of my transformation.
Go ahead.
So when we started to start a family, first of all, I had a lot of fear. I mean, so much fear around that in general. And then as I started walking through things, we got pregnant for the first time. I'd never dealt with that before. Never. I had a doctor already set up. Um, but things did not work out like they were supposed to. And
Mhm.
so, believe it or not, I was at a photography convention at the time, and I didn't know what it looked like to be pregnant. I didn't know what it looked like to have too much blood, all that stuff. I had no
Right.
idea. And so I was at this
Hmm.
photography convention in the complete unknown of what was going on with my body, but also knowing that I was there to create with other people.
Right.
And it was so interesting because when you don't have answers, at least in this piece of my life, when you don't have answers and you can't do anything about it, what do you do?
Right.
Right? Do you sit and cry in a corner? Do you catch a flight home? I mean, I was in St. Louis at the time.
Right. Right.
What I ended up doing was just writing it. I was like, I don't know what else to do but keep moving forward. And every day I would get up. I was like a 2 or 3 day conference. Every day I would get
Hmm.
up. I would go make some art, and then I would never talk to anybody about it because I didn't know what to say. There was nothing I could say to
Right.
say I'm struggling or I have no answers. I would call my husband and be like, I'm scared. And then I would talk to the midwife at the time. And I said, I'm really scared. And she says, well, that kind of looks normal, but we'll just check you out when you get home.
Right.
By the end of the convention, I just knew. When you
Right.
listen to your body and you're just like,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
don't think this is what it's supposed to be like. And I ended up, by the time I got a scan done, it was like I was never pregnant. And that was
Wow.
pretty devastating.
Wow.
At the time in my life, I wanted to hear good news.
Right.
I mean, don't you want to hear good news when you go
Yes,
like when you're
yes.
pregnant and you're trying to start a family and you're like, yeah, I'll have no problem whatsoever. And I didn't get the good news. I didn't get a heartbeat. I didn't get a picture. I didn't get anything. It was completely
Wow.
empty. And, we went through a grieving process for that. But at the same time, how do you pick up and keep going when you're like, that was a devastating loss? And how am
Yes,
I
and
supposed to
I'm
keep
sorry for
going?
your loss.
Yeah. And it's like, how am I supposed to keep going after that? And after that, we got pregnant again. And this time I went straight to the doctor. I was trying to do all the things I knew to do, except there was one thing I
Hmm.
wasn't addressing, and there was a physical condition that my blood pressure was high for whatever reason, and I avoided all doctors at all costs. And the second one, I got pregnant, and I don't even remember if I told anybody. I think I did.
Hmm.
And guess what happened? I go back to the same photography conference the
Wow.
next year, same time. Next year, almost a year later, did I
Hmm.
have another pregnancy.
Right.
And I think I had mentioned it to a couple people and they said congratulations, but the difference was as I got a scan before I left, so I knew I was going to miscarry.
Wow.
So there's a difference in the first one not knowing. The
Right.
second one I knew, and I still couldn't talk to anybody. I still didn't
Hmm.
know. I struggled internally, right? So I'm making art through all of this. So I'm still connecting with tons of people. This is a fairly large conference.
Right.
I'm just trying to put it out of my mind that it doesn't exist
Hmm.
and that I don't have the news that I have. And I specifically remember creating art pieces. I'm actually going through my memoir now. I'm writing a memoir, and it's taking me back to these exact places that I'm telling you about right now.
Yes.
In
Hmm.
that state of mind, in that state of creation, and knowing that I have all these wonderful people that love me, and I couldn't even talk to them about it. And
Right.
I just didn't know how to articulate that without bursting into tears. I was
Hmm.
like, how
Hmm.
could I even talk about this? And so I'm at the convention and I realize that everything starts happening. And there's once it starts, you can't stop it. And I don't know if anybody
Right.
realizes that if you've never had this happen to you, you can't control when and where
Right.
that it's
Right.
going to happen. And it just so happened to be in the middle of the night in St. Louis. I was walking down the street. I was trying to get to a Walgreens because I didn't have enough feminine products
Hmm.
to catch
Hmm.
up. And I was up for about 7 hours, just straight. Every time I would sit down, every time I would stand up, it was terrible and
Wow.
painful. And nobody tells you, first of all of the pregnancies were the same but different, right? And then
Right.
they felt different. The first one was different than the second one. And then I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. And
Right.
I had people trying to love on me and take care of me, and I just felt like I was in this place of undeserving of anything. I was like, just
Wow.
let me go off over here by myself and I'll see you in the morning kind of a thing. Just let me
Hmm.
go and,
Hmm.
do whatever. The worst thing I could want is somebody sitting there staring at me while in pain. Yeah,
Right.
right? Like I just feel like I don't know, it doesn't do it for me, you know?
Hmm.
So I didn't feel supported in that, but like I felt supported knowing that there was somebody there for me. And I was in my friend's house. They
Right.
were all finishing out the photography convention. And then I also had a friend come over the next morning and we made art together that morning. And I was
Hmm.
still having residual cramping and things like that. But
So you basically was working through the pain
yep,
and you're not sharing.
I'm not saying, I mean, my friend knew by the time she got
Okay.
there that morning, but I deflected everything. I told her, I said,
Wow.
and she said, I just want to be your friend. And I said, I just want to go make art.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so that
You were
was
looking
that.
for a distraction. That was also something
Yes.
for you to, yes.
Yes. And I find that
Hmm.
art and where I was at the time, it was a good distraction, but it was also
Hmm.
not letting me sit and be a
Exactly.
human. It wasn't letting me
Yeah.
sit and be human. So I still felt like, you know, what are you going to do? I can't control this. I don't feel like anybody cares, even though clearly my friends cared.
Right.
And they did their best to reach out to me. They really did. And so when I look back on that and years later, as I've healed from all of this, like
Hmm.
protectiveness,
Right.
I realized that I had some really amazing people, and I still do actually. I'm still friends with most of these people that have really been there for me in a way that they don't even know. Yeah, so the wonderful thing about this particular, loss and pregnancy was I was in a safe space. I felt safe there. My friends were looking after me in their own way. And I just realized the more that I got through it, I was just ready to go home at that time. And I did
Hmm.
the photo shoot. Um, she took me to the airport, and by then the worst had gone through. And I thought to myself that what a nightmare this would have been to actually go through this at the airport
Right.
and
Right.
be physically unable to do, like, can you imagine being stuck on a plane with that kind
Yes.
of, like, I
Yes.
just, I am so thankful, oddly, that it happened in the house where I could be
Right.
safe near a bathroom.
Hmm.
Then at the same time, I was like, I'm like, wow. I mean, to me, that was a really awesome blessing to me.
Right. Indeed.
And even how painful it was, I was like, okay, this is great. So great. Um, and also as an artist, I almost felt, and I almost took a photo of what happened to my shorts that night because I was
Mm.
completely
Yeah.
bled through everything and there was no stopping it. I was afraid to bleed in my friend's car. I was afraid to bleed on my friend's bed.
Right.
I
Right.
was afraid to sleep. And when I did sleep, it was maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then I had to get up and go to the airport, all that stuff.
Wow.
And,
That's a
and then
lot going on
so much going
while
on,
you going through such a physical and
physical,
psychological experience.
all of it. And it's so interesting when I look back at it. Like, I'm so thankful for it. I don't think I would have chosen another place to have
Hmm.
that happen. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. I mean,
Right.
I'm getting to the point where I feel like it was being around the creative energy. It was being around
Right.
people that were just so focused on creating, and you feed off of that and you
Right. Hmm.
distract yourself a little bit from the pains of the world, but knowing the pain's still going to be there when you come back to it.
Right.
And
But that was
you
positive energy.
Yeah, so much positive energy that it just felt good to, like, just, it's gonna be fine. I just need to go create stuff. And
Because at least now you know for sure what was expected than the first time when you had no idea.
yeah,
So now, even though it's been a year, because again, your body didn't even fully heal, you know. So all of that, your body is still
it's a
reacting, your
lot of work to
mind.
go through a pregnant
Yes.
cycle and just a cycle in general. And I was like,
Hmm.
looking back, like, how many of us have never, we've just sloughed it off as it doesn't exist. And my thing was, well, I'd already named my babies at that point.
Wow.
Right? I mean, might as well. And so
Yes,
I was like, I
yes.
might as well name them. So
Hmm.
why not?
Hmm.
And even though I never got, and this is another thing too, as a photographer, like, we capture everything in pictures, and I
Right.
didn't get one single picture.
Yeah,
Didn't
because
get
this
one
is your
single
life.
picture. One single picture of my little womb.
Mm.
Nothing. No, I think maybe I had a bean one time, and I was like, I would have taken that picture and really loved to see that little bean. Like,
Hmm.
seriously.
Right.
And after the fact, right? And but a lot of people that they don't think about that. And then I was on the older side too. I'm creeping up to 40 at the time, and I'm
Hmm.
just like,
Hmm.
So the photography conference ends. I get home safely. We mourn again, and it's just, you can bounce back a little faster if if you're in that right headspace. But it was
Right.
getting harder and harder to be like, okay, let's try again. It's
Right.
and I've heard stories. I've heard people just many miscarriages, but I'm on number 2, and I'm like, okay, that's enough already. Like, I'm serious. Like, let's stop.
Yes. Yes.
So I always like to joke, and I don't think I've ever told this story publicly, but I like to joke that the dentist got me pregnant because I was at a women's conference and I was chewing a piece of gum and a piece of my tooth broke off. And I
Oh
just
my goodness.
deathly afraid of holes in my teeth. And, I hate that. So I go to the dentist and they don't treat you with high blood pressure if it's too out of control.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So in order to get my tooth fixed, I had to go get medicated.
Wow.
So I like to joke that that's what led me to facing this physical issue, whatever it is. I still don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I just know that it's there.
Right.
So I got medicated on the most pregnancy safe meds I could get to put it down so I could get my tooth fixed.
Wow. Wow.
And then several months later in July, right after my 40th birthday party, I get pregnant.
Ooh, wow.
So we're pregnant again now. Now, what do you think is going through my head, everybody?
You're thinking, yeah.
Hyperactive,
Yes.
checking the toilet, checking my pants.
It's like paranoia too.
It is absolute paranoia. And unless you have had a loss and then got pregnant again, and then you're like, is the baby going to stick around? Am I going to have a baby? Am I going to do this? So we didn't tell anybody for a long time.
I'm sure.
Until we were sure. And even then, I was still like, every other day, I was like, am I, aren't I? Am I, aren't, it's just, it was such a weird headspace to be in that trust mode, but also be in complete paranoia and fear.
Right.
And it wasn't, oh God, I had the best pregnancy too. Like literally the best pregnancy, except I had terrible, terrible blood pressure numbers, right? Like it doesn't get better when you get pregnant. It gets usually worse.
It gets worse.
I also discovered in this part of my life, now that I'm pregnant, I've got a little baby inside of me. I've discovered this piece of anger that I didn't know existed.
Wow.
What I realized, now I'm looking back, right? I'm looking back at all of this, the healing that I've gone through. I can look back now, how invisible I felt until I got pregnant and had a baby. Like all of a sudden, everybody cared.
Yeah.
And there was something inside of me about needing to be seen that I couldn't figure it out for a really long time. And so when I got pregnant, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, I'm going to get you this gift. I'm going to get you this gift. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. How are you doing? And they're always asking you how you're doing, right? Like when you're pregnant, it's like you're a magical queen and you're ready to, And I told everybody, I said, you know what? I'm 40 years old now. I know what I want. I had staged out my birthing plan, knowing full well all of the above could happen at that point.
Right.
And one day I go into the doctor for my usual visit. It was a high risk doctor. Thank goodness for my friend Amy, who hooked me up with a nice high risk doctor. She was really nice. And her nurse was not, but she was. But walking through all of that after loss and then having the courage to, let your body host a baby, it was so interesting to me. And it just felt like a little alien just wiggling around there the whole time. And she was just, I got everything done up until the point that I got locked in the hospital. I walked in there one day and she says, well, Jen, you're not leaving the hospital until you have this kid. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I feel great. She's like, oh yeah, your labs are looking questionable. We got to get this kid going. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like I have a haircut appointment. I'm going to go do boxing later. At the time I was taking boxing classes still, and I was still, hitting the bag. Yeah. And I was one of those people I've, worked out for a really long time. And I said, you're not going to tell me not to work out. You're not going to tell me not to do the things I know I need to do.
Well, they do say what you're used to doing in your lifestyle, you don't change it, right?
Exactly, which is what I'd always been working out for years.
Well, some people would say, knowing that you're high risk, though, they would say, limit. Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, in that respect, I was like, yeah, I'll do what I feel like. I will listen to my body because I've been through 2 losses. I know what it feels like. And I'm so glad I continued the fitness aspect of it, because it just made me feel so much better. And everybody used to go, well, my back hurts. Oh, I said, girl, like nothing hurt me, because I was keeping those pieces of my body where they needed to be and strong. So, and I got some good sleep. I was getting good sleep. I wasn't having any, of course, I didn't make it much past 37 weeks because they rolled me in the hospital on a Monday
Mm-hmm.
and said, "You're not leaving." And I was like, oh, okay. So 3 induction tries later, we opted for the C-section by Friday because at that
Mm-hmm.
point I was like, I'm ready to get out of the hospital. Y'all are trying to
Right.
kill me. You put me on bed rest. I don't like bed rest. I like
Yeah.
movement. I was hurting. I couldn't sleep. They're like, do you have a headache? And I was like, yeah, from laying in this bed.
Oh, I let me tell you, I hated the hospital experience. I could never sleep in the hospital, and then people keep coming and monitoring you, checking in on you.
Yes. The
I
blood
don't
pressure
like that. That is not a great experience
I
at
don't recall
all.
how many times they checked my blood pressure, but it was a lot. And it was stupid too, because it was a cheap little flimsy one. And I was like, you're never going to get an accurate reading down at my elbow.
Oh my goodness.
And
Because
so
you
it
was
was
like,
always
get me
so
out of here. I'm
frustrating.
done.
Yeah, at this point, I'm mad at myself. I'm mad at my body. I'm mad at my family. I'm mad at my everything. I'm mad.
Everybody.
Like, so mad at everybody and myself. And except for Zach, except for my husband. And that's funny because you see a lot of that display, like, oh, you did this to me. No, we did this together. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And so so yeah, we had our baby, and they took her right on out. The healing process from that was great.
Yay.
She's beautiful. She's here with me. She's still, she's going into 3rd grade, and
Wow, beautiful.
yeah, so she's doing wonderful, and she's a great kid. And it was just, that was one of those pieces of my life where I'm like, wow, this is really happening. I'm really going to be a
Right.
mom. And they laid her on my chest, and I was like, oh
It's
my.
real.
Yeah, it's so weird to have something come out of you and then lay on you. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe I just made a human. That is so weird.
Yeah.
In the best way possible. So I was just like, this is really cool. And they said they saw hair in her sonogram, and I was like, that's weird. That's even weirder. And so they lay her on me. I was like, where did this hair come from? I was bald as a baby. My husband was bright blonde, and I was like, where all this hair come from? So, but yeah, it was really sweet because she was just, she was itty bitty. She was only 6 pounds 3, and I was born at 6 pounds 9. So, she was definitely well cooked enough. Let's just put it that way. That was our goal. It
Yes.
ended up being almost exactly 37 weeks, which
Yes.
is so funny because that was our goal from the beginning. It was like, our goal is to get here, and
Right.
let's do whatever we can to get here. And I was like, all
Yes.
right. And I took that to heart. Right. And I did
Yes.
all the things, and I changed my meals because I was gestational diabetic, and all this stuff, kept working out, kept doing all this stuff. And then, it turns out she's just great. Everything's great about her.
That's
I'm great
good.
physically at the time, right? Like, everything's great. And so we start the journey of motherhood. So, I'm immersed into that for, the first year of her life. I went to photography conferences because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I like
Right.
to do. And it's a
Right.
part of who I am as a creator. And so I think I did I did 1 conference her first year of life, and then she was a year old, and then I took her to a second conference
Mm-hmm.
at that point. So I could take her, and people that knew my story could actually see the physical representation of my journey.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm still not through with the story yet, but this is like a physical representation of a journey that I've gone through, that I could show people, this is my baby. This is
Right.
what happened out of all this trauma and loss.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then you get to the end of 2018, and I'm at another photography convention, and I'm just about to lose it. Like, I feel like I'm in the darkness. I feel worthless. I had pretty much come to the point where I listed off about 30 reasons why I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good wife. I'm definitely not a good mother. There was
Right.
just so many different things that I had listed off about myself that I was really starting to believe. So I was at this convention, and I was just going through the motions. You can go through the motions and still make really, really cool art.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the connection was missing. I have my friends that I really enjoyed hanging out with. There was a couple of things that I was doing that I was really proud of. But at the same time, I felt like I was starting to die inside. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
really feeling isolated. Like, at this point, I was like, I felt like nobody cared to ask about me.
Right.
Nobody asked what I do for a living. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
asked my insight, my voice. My voice was completely muted. I think I muted myself because I was like, well, what's the point?
Right. Right.
and nobody cares anyway. So there's no
Yeah,
point
we
in
tend to tell
thinking
ourselves
about
that.
anything.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I was like, well, then we went through this exercise at the convention. I just love that this is all happening at photography conventions. It's so funny
This
that
convention is always healing
I
for you. Even
have
something's
these
always happening.
pivotal moments at these
Yes.
conventions, and I think it's because you're immersed into a place that's not your normal home, and
Yes.
there's always an intention when you get there. They've set an event up for you to go take you on a journey. You just never know
Yes.
when you get there what kind of
Hmm.
journey you're about to go on.
Right.
So particular time, the speaker was having us go through exercises. I can't tell you the exercise. I just know that whatever it was, the person I was paired with started asking me questions about myself and my insight on stuff. And I felt weird responding, but I also felt like they were being genuine asking me.
Right.
And then I would share some stuff. I would hold back a little bit, but I would share some stuff. And then
Hmm.
I would kind of like look away. And then it was like somebody was trying to look at me. And I was like, I
Yes.
don't know, I don't know.
I don't want you to see
And
me.
yeah, it's like, I kind of it's like, is this for real? Is one of the first things I thought is this for real? Like somebody actually wants to talk to me and get to know me a little bit? Or am I just hearing things and seeing things? And so the more that time went on, the more that I just felt like I got to express myself to this person,
Hmm.
and really some deep hearted stuff, not the shallow stuff. Right.
Right.
And then after the exercise was over, I just went to the bathroom and just cried. I mean, I was
Wow.
sobbing, y'all, just sobbing. And I was like, what is going on? Like something touched me deeply, like
Right.
so deep I didn't know what it was.
Wow.
And then released what it was going on, I'm just like in awe of what happened afterwards. I was just like, I think I just needed to be seen and heard,
That's
literally,
it.
like, and I needed somebody. I didn't have to chase it. I didn't have to beg for
Yes.
it.
Genuine.
And yes, it was genuine. And I was, at that time I told myself that everybody was just being really nice. They didn't like you. They much less that they didn't love you.
Wow.
So it was like, well,
The things
and
we
I
tell ourselves, my
the things that
goodness.
we have believed, and we have encased ourselves in a cocoon of not good things. To
No.
be isolated in a cocoon is different than a big transformation. Um,
Yes.
so this isolation was starting to like chip away at my personal identity and my heart and who I was created to be.
Hmm.
But then somebody kind of like chipped a little crack in there, and I started to break open a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, like something's wrong. And I need to go figure out what it is. And it just
Hmm.
so happened when I got home, I literally made a plan that day. I said, I don't care what happens from this moment forward, but I'm going to go home and get help. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And I knew that I needed to go to break some stuff spiritually because it was getting really bad. And so when I was going to a lovely counselor, and she literally just like caught me in the midst of everything pouring out. So
Hmm.
everything's pouring out. She listens and captures everything. She understands it. She sees it. And she says, God's going to install a whole new identity in you. And this is
Hmm.
not your real identity.
Yeah.
And everything that you've made a case against yourself, we're going to wipe that away. And then we're going to
Come
install.
on.
I think we ended up installing like this bright shining diamond right here in my heart. And I was like, And so my counselor, we walked through a lot of things together. And this was 2018. So
Uh-huh.
2018, 2019, and 2019, I had the pleasure and the honor to sit with the same friend who was sitting with me at my second miscarriage.
Wow.
And I told her, and I apologized to her for,
Hmm.
sorry, I'm going to cry a little bit.
That's
I
fine. That's
I
fine.
apologized to her for not letting her love me, because I was
Yes.
like, you have no idea how closed off I was,
Yes.
and how you were literally trying to beat down the door and love on me, and I
Right.
didn't let you. And I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you doing that
Hmm.
and being there for me.
Right.
And I told her what I had learned so far about my healing journey was I just felt like nobody liked me, nobody wanted to be around me, and nobody cared.
Right.
And she immediately clapped back saying, I care. I care so
Yes.
much. And
Yes.
and
Yes.
it was
It's
the
like
most
you was going
beautiful
through the
thing.
pain and you said, this is my pain. I'm not sharing it with
Yeah.
anybody. You were being
Yeah.
selfish, basically. And
Yep.
people who wanted to help you, you close it off because you already tell yourself, like, they don't like me. This
It's not
just,
worth it. Yeah.
pity. I'm
Keep it
not,
to
yeah.
yourself. Yep. And so I had the pleasure of sitting with her and just having a little healing moment with her and just telling her how thankful I was and how these people just don't understand like the depth of just being there and really loving me for me really makes
Right.
all the difference. And that was 2019. And so towards the end of 2019, I had always thought that maybe we would have, 2 or 3 kids together and
Mm-hmm.
we'd, have this little family unit or whatever. And
Right.
we got pregnant again towards the end of 2019. And it was very frustrating at the time. I remember kind of like being like, waiting on my period to come. And I was like, where are you? Like, are you just
Right.
going to like sneak up from behind me and just like bam? And so over Thanksgiving, I remember just kind of like going back and forth, like, I don't know what's going on, but my period is not coming. And then it didn't
Mm-hmm.
come for November, December. And then I went, and of course, it was so early, I couldn't do anything about it but take pregnancy tests. And
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was just like, at this point, I don't know what's going to happen. I just kind
Right.
of resigned to the fact that I'm going to have a baby or I'm not. So I ended up going to Chicago for a Blue Man fan meet at the end of 2019. And I just told everybody, I said, y'all, I'm pregnant.
Right.
And I said, and I don't know anything else other than that right now, but I'm going to celebrate as if the baby is already here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So and I went into it with that heart, and I could say and celebrate with them, and I felt good about celebrating with them. And then
Mm-hmm.
we get back, or I get back, and go to the doctor, and I'm supposed to be a certain amount of weeks along, right? And your
Right.
scan is
Right.
supposed to match up with your weeks. And I go to get the scan, and they said that there's nothing there. There's just no heartbeat, no nothing. And it was just like a little sack. And
Wow.
I was like, okay, been through this before.
Right. Right. Right.
And then I was like, either miracles happen or they don't.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, you either going to have a miracle here for me or we're not doing this. And so I'm just like, I don't know what do I believe? What do I know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And so I would just go home and cry about it, knowing there was nothing I could do. There's nothing you can do at certain points of a pregnancy could make it go anywhere you want it to. You know what
No,
I mean? You have
nothing.
no control
Nothing.
half of the time, over half of the time. And so it was so interesting because we had made a family photo appointment. And then towards the end of January, I think it was the end of January. Yeah. I started miscarrying that third one.
Wow.
Technically, it was my fourth pregnancy, but it was my
Right,
third
right, right.
miscarriage.
Third
So
miscarriage.
I started miscarrying, and you know, and I the whole time I'm sitting here like, I can't do this again. I cannot do this again.
Mm-hmm.
The pregnancy stuff is just so hard on your body.
Right.
And the unknown, you have to wait, and you have to wait and keep waiting. And then you get a not so good answer. And I was like, I
Yes.
can't do this anymore. Can't do it. And so I still have the photos from that session that I was still bleeding at. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like heavy bleeding, but I was still finishing.
Right.
And so the fact that photography seems to be like a revolving factor, and just it's so interesting that I always end up around creatives around my
Right.
time of traumas and loss,
Right.
that I feed off of that energy, and it's joy. There's a lot of joy in what we do as photographers and artists.
Right.
And I think that's why I felt like it was going to be okay anyway. Like
Right.
whatever happens from this moment forward, I feel
Yeah,
like
because
I've
you've
done what
gone
I need
through
to
it.
do.
Yeah.
And there's literally nothing else I can do about this.
It's
And
out of your
except raise my
control.
baby, have my human child to sit here with and raise her the best I can, and
Yes.
be with her. And So yeah, the photo session happens, and then my grandpa's on his deathbed, and in February I fly up to see my grandpa for one last time to say goodbye before, he goes off to wherever. And that's literally, lockdown happened the next month. So
Wow.
I am fresh off of a miscarriage. My grandpa died, and then we're
Yes.
locked in our house.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, we're locked in our house. And now we're like, okay, well, we can't go to work. Like, I can't go to work. So it's like grief upon grief upon grief.
Yes.
I mean, that's like 3
Yes.
griefs right there. I actually didn't realize I was grieving my business at the time.
Of course.
I didn't know it was a thing.
Yes.
I was like, it's just a business. But then I was like,
But
a
you
friend of mine,
interacted. That is how you created. That
it was
is
a
what
baby. It's a
helped you
baby
through
too.
all your processes. Yes.
So it's a baby too. And everybody else in the industry was hurting at the time too. So we were all grieving communally and collectively. The world was grieving together, and
Yes.
the connections that we once had to be so much more distance focused. And
Yes.
it was very difficult for many of us out there,
Yes.
having to isolate. And I don't ever actually want to forget that, because it's very important that connections still be a thing with
Yes.
human to human contact, because it's so fascinating how much was taken away, it felt like, that year.
Yes.
So lost the baby, lost my grandpa, and then lost what I would consider connection to the world. Even though
Yes.
I'm a huge avid online lover. You see us here today, we're in coast to
Right.
coast, right? But there was something missing about that human connection. And
Human
so there was
connection is a
that,
big thing.
that
We don't
long period.
realize
Yep.
how important that is until you come to a place when you can't have that. And
Yep.
COVID did that. You understand? You
Yep.
couldn't interact. The things you normally do. You couldn't just go to the park and hang out. You couldn't do, you can't do the hobbies. I'm sure people who was doing bingo, they couldn't do their bingo anymore.
Yeah.
So
Definitely no
now people
photography
are
conventions
home.
that year.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, so that was like that's how that year started for me. And I know so many others out there had their own versions of griefs and loss, and people and family members and friends, and people just were, leaving the planet. They were
Yes.
dying, and
Loss after loss.
loss after loss. And so I understand that so much. That year changed a lot of things for a lot of us. And so towards the end of the year, I started really thinking about where I was, in my grief process. And I think eventually a couple of friends of ours kind of walked me through my last miscarriage. And that's the difference between the first, second, and the third.
Right.
The third one, I was at home. Okay.
Yeah.
I felt guilty. I
Mm.
felt ashamed.
Mm.
I felt everything that was very, I'd gone through all this healing up to this point, right? I told you I went to my counselor and I'd gone through some
Yes.
healing. But this particular loss, I felt like I was back to being invisible again for a second.
Mhm.
And my husband loves me dearly, so he would, try to, and then of course I have like my little 2-year-old running around at the time, and like,
Right. That's
mommy,
your
mommy, and
distraction.
I'm just like, mommy is not feeling good, stuff like that. And I'd locked myself into a room for, I think this one was hard and heavy 4 hours. Then I had a break, and then another hard and heavy 4 hours. So that was like an
Wow.
all day thing of just up and down, up and down, up and
Mhm.
down. And then this one was much more, it was another pain I had never had before.
Wow.
So every one was different. Everyone had a different pain.
Mhm.
And so this one was just, I didn't like being at home. I was like, I'd almost rather be at a photography convention. It's so funny.
Right. Something. Yeah. It kept your mind busy.
Yeah. So I had to sit there with myself. And I was like, again, I don't want people sitting there and sitting with me in my misery. So I just locked myself in my room alone, so I could just be like alone.
Yeah, you had to face Jen.
I had to face everything. And I was like, and that's fine. And some people, maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe it's weird, but this is the best way I knew to get through it for me. And it was just
That's it.
so different. And that's what makes a part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so all alone and going through this for a solid, 8+ hours. And then came through that with just in the lockdown. And then I was like, well, you know what? It's time to move forward anyway. I said, can I be done, God? And I felt released to just kind of move forward in that,
Right.
because there's a lot of that hangs in the balance if you're trying to start a family. At least for
Yes.
me.
Yes.
For me, I was like, well, I can't run off and do this because what if I'm pregnant and I do this? There's so many different things that happens if you're pregnant and you have to make
Yes.
different plans. So I was so glad to be done so I could focus back on my daughter and my business and just kind of be like, these are my babies and let's just run with that.
Right.
So 2020 opened up towards the end of the year. I start my new photography business brand under Weirdo Weddings. And I was like, well, now I'm just going to work with the people that I really want to work with. And I've met all these wedding pros, both locally and online.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Clubhouse, we were all on Clubhouse together talking about stuff. We were learning from each other. Every different state and city had a different thing going on in 20 and 21.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all getting to know each other. There's so many people I never would have met in my lifetime had I not sat on Clubhouse.
Yes.
And but yeah, there's like so many different people that I've met through that season where I just never would have met them. And so I'm really thankful for the lockdown, but also that connection with new people that I
Right.
really wouldn't have met before.
So what
And
happened
so,
with the lockdown for many was now
yeah,
you have to face the reality. Also, now it also give you opportunity to birth something new.
yeah,
Things that were dormant that you just said, when I have time, I'll do it. When I have time, I'll do it. So now with the lockdown, which is COVID, now you have time.
yeah,
You have time to do the things you said if I had time to do, and that give you the opportunity to create, to get things done. I even had an episode, I was calling it Real Talk, right? And I was telling people, if you are in COVID and you had something that was laying dormant
mm-hmm,
and that thing
mm-hmm.
isn't birthed, it will never come to life because now you have the time. I remember going to Home Depot. Everyone had projects at home, things that they
Yes,
always
we
wanted to
did.
do. Home Depot was the new Walmart, it was the
Yeah.
mall for
Everybody was
everybody.
getting fitness equipment and
Everybody was
ordering
getting
fitness.
things done. Everyone was creating. Everyone was doing that what is it, DIY.
Yeah. Yep.
Everyone was doing something. And so I said, you know what? It's time. So I started bringing individuals on. I
Yeah.
said, it's time for you to hustle. The hustler in you need to come out because you need to eat, right? A lot of these companies, you can't go to work. So you need to get that hustle going. And I'm not going to lie to you, many people that I've mentored through that and talked to even came on the set, all right, just through having that conversation, all right, were
Yeah.
able to become better at what they were doing. Those who wanted brick and mortar stores for a restaurant. But I said, first of all, they don't know. You're the best kept secret. Start cooking. Start making plates from home. Tell people come and get it. And, you could deliver it to their house. You don't have to go inside. And a lot of that happened. So
Yeah.
what happened with you? You create. Now you have the opportunity to get into a creative space without physically leaving your house, meeting great people, and now birthing something totally new. Now you said, I'm really going to do what I wanted to do, something that I enjoy.
And
And
something
you call
that
it, what's it called? Weirdo weddings.
Weirdo Weddings. And what's funny is you kind of nailed it earlier. Something that had been laying dormant that you think, and I tell this to people now when I'm on stages and when I'm at speaking at places.
Mm-hmm.
I said, your ideas, even if it sounds really ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
that may be the thing that you need to lean into. It's probably
Yes.
something obvious. And I tell people that I just walked right into it. I had no idea that, how they make you, like, people sit down, give us your 1-year plan, your 5-year plan.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I don't work that way.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have dreamed this one up on my own. It just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like came out of that pain. Like we're
That's it.
saying, things are birthed out of pain, even if
Pain
it's
into
a physical
purpose.
pain with babies, or if it's something inside of you that has been, like you said, laying dormant and you have not let it sprout. You've kept it
Yes.
down. And so that's what this was for me. And I know it's only the beginning because I've had a couple of things sprout up since then, but
Mm-hmm.
that was huge to come out of that year having much more of a clear mission than I ever have in my whole life.
Yes.
Not to mention having my child and then
Yes.
having our family here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so 3 years into that, I'm out there hustling, putting a name out there for that particular brand so I
Mm-hmm.
can make sure that, listen, like, I'm not afraid to be seen now. I'm going to be
Yes.
coming out. This is basically a coming out story. You know what I mean? It's like,
That's
I'm
it.
coming out, I'm showing people who I am, and I'm connecting on authentic
And you're
levels.
being real. You're being real.
I'm
You
being
faced
real.
yourself.
I don't have any reason to hold back on what I've gone through and
Yes.
mistakes I've made, even mistakes that I thought were good choices, right? Like,
Right.
you think you're good choices, and sometimes it's good. And then you burn yourself out from doing things that you
Mm-hmm.
didn't need to do,
Yeah.
but it sure did teach you something while you were in it.
Yes. Yes.
So, you fast forward to, and this is a great part of my journey is that I had, my husband got really sick one of these years. And so I had to immediately kind of pick up and just kind of say, okay, what's going on with you? What do we need to look at for you?
Right.
And, figuring out what he needed to, learn from, heal from also.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me to, a lot of extra activities. I was at one point, having a couple of seltzers a day. I was drinking a lot more than I ever have in my whole life. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just coping for something and I couldn't figure out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it was almost like it was another version of like, well, I'm not worthy of this, so why should I bother?
Right.
And it was like basically taking care of myself, care of my body. And I realized this was so interesting how this happened. So like,
Mm-hmm.
you think you've forgiven people, right? You've gone
Right.
through some work. You've forgiven yourself for a lot of stuff. You've
Right.
worked through the grief. You've worked through the loss. You've embraced some new things.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, there was still something I was hitting a wall on. And I was like, it's just much more pleasant to go drink a couple of drinks than
Right.
actually, for whatever reason, deal with what's going on and tell
Mm-hmm.
myself, everything is not going to work out, or,
Right. Right.
what's the point? And I realized sitting down with another lovely, we'll call her sort of a life coach meets, identity
Right.
coach. And we go through something and I was shown that it was revealed to me that I hadn't forgiven my body
Ah.
at all for what it had gone through.
Wow.
Because you remember how I told y'all I was angry at my body. I
Yeah.
was frustrated, all the emotions you can think of they're just, some people wake up and say affirmations to themselves. And like, I could have done that, but I never would have believed it. Right.
Right. Right.
But this year I had the opportunity to sit with her, and then it just made sense now as to why I was making decisions the way I was making decisions. I was, coping for the fact that I can't do this. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's easier to cop out and just
Right.
be like, I'm just going to like
Yeah.
go do
Everyone
whatever.
goes through something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm just going to go do whatever I want, eat whatever I want, and then I started to like feel, like not so good. I had
Yeah.
a friend die from brain cancer and she died fairly quickly. So it was
Wow.
like, I either need to look at this and start looking at what's going on in
Right.
myself,
Right.
or I'm going to not feel good and it's going to get worse. Right. So
Yeah.
that was October of last year. And then in March is when I finally like had this moment where I was like, okay, so I realized I haven't forgiven myself for
Mm-hmm.
the losses and being mad at my body. So I walked through that first. And then she also walked me through how envisioning my children.
Yeah.
Because when you have a miscarriage, I don't know if anybody else deals with this, but when you have a miscarriage, it's like it never happened.
Yeah.
You feel invisible, first of all, because a lot of people at the time when I was going through all this, it was like, not a lot of people were talking about it.
Right.
And then you talk about it and all of a sudden everybody talks about it. So,
Right.
I
Sometimes
deal
it
with
takes
that.
that one person to start talking
Yeah, just
that
that one
opens
person needs
up.
to share. And all of a sudden you got people that understand. And there's people that want to be private about it. And they'll say, I really went through this too. Or I find out some of my family's gone through it, and they just kind of slough it off like it's not a big deal. But to me, it was like a huge deal. Like, I tried to get pregnant and I couldn't get pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
I'm mad about this. And so what ended up happening after I forgave myself, I began to envision my kids alive. And I said, out of all the healing work that I've done, out of all the things that I've walked through, I have never imagined them alive. I just think they're invisible and gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the beautiful thing about this year being so different. And just, I'm going to mark it now, 2025, y'all, when this is being
Yes.
recorded. This has just happened to me. So this is
Yes.
this is another
New
layer of
revelation.
healing. Yeah, a new revelation, another layer of healing, another layer of insight into why I do what I do, or how I cope with things, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And how much we always look externally for things instead of being internally satisfied.
Yes.
And so when I imagine them all alive, I could see each of them on a playground doing something different, and they all
Right.
look different. They all have our genetics, mine and my husband's genetics, but they all look different. They're all doing different things. And then then I took it a step further and I said, this sounds like a great job for an artist.
Yeah.
So I contacted an illustrator and I said, I need this drawn up. This is our family.
Mm-hmm.
This is our family right now. And I said, I want to illustrate. I want you to have an illustration of 3 angel babies, 1 human baby.
Yeah.
They're going to be more like her age right now, like 7 or 8 years old, right?
Right.
And we had put our cat down this year as well. My wonderful Hans was 17 years old. We had him
Wow.
for years. His sister went in 23. And she was about 16 years old. So we had lost those 2 cats. And those are the 2 cats that we got as a couple, as babies.
Right.
So those are important pieces of our family.
Right.
So I had the
Yes.
illustrator add in Hans and Chewy. And then our current 2 babies, Lewis and Mando, I had her add them in there too. And so there's beautiful mix of children and cats. And then Zach and I are at the back on a bench, and Chewy is on his lap because she was a daddy's girl.
Uh-huh.
But I have this beautiful illustration of our family, and it's gorgeous, and it's a representation of the success in my life, being who I am, doing the things I know I'm supposed to do, even if it's through a lot of loss and pain,
Yeah.
and following the path anyway. Instead of avoiding the pain and not confronting the giants, I'm facing it. Not saying I face everything all the time, but these were
Right.
some really big ones. These were some
Yes.
really, really big ones. When you have nothing but fear of death and fear of pain and all this other stuff, when you start breaking loose of some of these things that have held you for so long, it's like, oh, okay, this is how life is actually supposed to be.
Yes. Yes.
And the coolest thing out of all of it is that knowing that we aren't alone. We're going to feel alone, but we're not alone. So don't be me in 2018 that was like, well, nobody cares.
Yes.
Not even my husband, not my family. Nobody cares.
Yeah. When you say nobody cares, you mean nobody.
You literally mean nobody cares. And
Yeah.
I know there's people out there that are struggling with that. And there's people that care. It's just that you're
to the point you even telling yourself you don't
you're
care.
cocooned up. You're cocooned up and blocked off from the love that's trying to get to you. And all you need is that one little crack, and the little floodgates are going to go wide open, and you'll be the best you that you've been already created to be. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is I'm living in this space of Jen is here. The real Jen has come out to be a butterfly, or whatever, whatever flying creature I might be.
Today you're a butterfly.
Today I'm a butterfly. I could be an alien the next day. You never know.
No, you're going to stay a butterfly.
But it's like, it's the best thing to get to a place where stuff is going to happen to you. That's the reality, but also that you're not alone to go through it. And that has been the biggest wonderful thing that I've experienced this year, is that knowing that I haven't been alone. But I also still have some of the remnants of the old thinking sometimes is in there, and some of the things.
Yeah, sometimes it's there. Sometimes just as
you
a
gotta
reminder.
pull it out. Sometimes
let
like
it be.
tiny weeds.
Here it is, Jen. You have to let it be a reminder, for you to do better, not for you to go back into that place. See, there's a difference.
It's a
If it's
reminder
there,
of what you've been through too. Like you can
yes.
take yourself back through your story at any time. You don't have to be on
Yes.
a podcast. You don't have to be on a stage. You can sit in your own home and go through your story and be like, you know what? I'm so thankful I went through this, this, and this is what
Mm-hmm.
brought me to this healing point. And this is what brought me to this insight. And then
Yes.
it just never stops. So don't think that once you've arrived, you've arrived. You actually haven't.
No.
It's like the
No.
pathway still goes. The
Yes.
pathway still is going. I went, my husband and I celebrated 20 years this year.
Ooh,
And we went,
congratulations.
yes. And we went on a hike together down to a beach, but it wasn't just a hike. It was literally everything. It was some path exposed, some not exposed. You
Right.
had tree limbs and tree roots you were jumping over to get down the mountain. But the point was, is like there was so many different paths, twists and turns and
In
levels
life. And
to
that's
get to where you
life.
were going. And to get to the beach where we were going, I was like, boy, this is quite the journey. And oh my gosh, my legs hurt. They're shaking at the end, you know? But it was so worth the journey to realize that, you know, every step does matter. Every step
Yes.
was not lost. You can actually be on the right path and not lost at all. And it may be a little, you know, you have a couple of little obstacles to walk over. That's
Yes.
really, you know, one of the ways to look at it. But yeah, that's where I am to where I am now. It's so interesting because then, you know, I'm always navigating. Now I'm navigating the parent stuff. Like, okay, you know, am I enough? You know, there's so many reasons and scenarios where we ask ourselves, are we enough? Are we
Yes.
ever enough?
Yes.
Are we doing all the things that we need to do? And then like every day we get the opportunity to get up and like listen and be like, okay, what do I need to know today? And then go do the thing or not.
That's it. That's it.
So
So,
yeah.
so everyone, we just want to thank Jen. Jen is a part of the She Emergence virtual conference. I just love it. Listen, what you think is just you going through is actually common. So we need to forgive ourselves and realize, stop withdrawing, all right, because it's not doing you any good, all right. Don't think people should know what's going on in your
Yep.
life.
Yep.
They can't read your mind or read your husband can't even read your mind.
How will
Nobody
they
can
know
read your
unless
mind.
you tell them? How
You
will you
need
know?
to talk about it. All right. And you will find that what you're going through, that same not common, is actually very common. And there are people who have gone through it more than I know. A woman personally growing up who went through 9 miscarriages
Mhm.
before she had a child. And after that, she had, I think, 5 or 6 children. All right. There are those who just never got pregnant at all. You might be watching here today. Your time will come. All right. Your time will come. I can take you to the Bible. I can take you to Hannah, who couldn't have a child, and she prayed to God. You know, and she said, God, give me a son, and I will give him back to you. All right. And that is what she did. A lot of us, there's some healings that we have to get done, first of all. All right. There's some hurts. There's some things that was in your life that you need to deal with. All right. So you can come into this beautiful miracle that your body has to go through. But if you was already going through so many past childhood traumas, drama, and then now you adding on to that, I say this all the time. God knows indeed how much you can bear. All right. For someone, because we have Jen here telling you that she went through 3 miscarriages. All right. And in between the three, she had one. But you did mention you have another
I had 3 miscarriages and 1 baby.
on
Yep.
one baby. Okay.
1
So,
human.
okay. And one baby. But at the end of the day, she still realized she needed to forgive herself. She had to forgive her body. All right. She had to forgive people, everything. All right. So we need to come into that realization. Forgive yourself. Let it go. All right. Let it go. Stop holding on. Stop babying it. Stop holding on to it. All right. Let it go. Because the more you hold on to it, all it's doing is crippling you, tying your hands and feet, putting a blindfold on your eyes, muffling you. That's all it's doing. And before you do it, you just vanish and you're no longer you. So this is what needs to happen for this healing journey. Unworthiness, yes. You heard her mention it so many times. I'm not deserving. I'm not this. Trust me, it
Mhm.
didn't happen in an adult. From a child, something happened, something triggered for her to feel like, you know what, I'm not deserving. And so when these things was happening, nobody see me. I don't want to share. Nobody cares. How many times have you told yourself that? They don't care. Nobody sees me. But are you talking? Are you sharing? Who did you share with? We're not walking around here being mind readers. Women even do that to their husband and get mad and think he knows whatever is wrong with you. He doesn't know until you tell it. So
Mhm.
this is what we need to realize on today. All right. So this is Jen's story. Okay, she's come away from, she's emerged from this. She's still healing. She told you just a couple months
Just
ago.
a few months ago.
That's it. You're always healing. So if you think it's gonna happen overnight, no. But take the first step and keep stepping. I like how you took that hike to get to the beach. You
Yeah.
went through paths you could see and unseen,
Yep.
uneven. That's life. It's not
And you know what
smooth.
else about that hike I forgot to mention?
Hmm.
As soon as we got to the beach, the end, we'll say the end result, we got to the beach. All of a sudden, 4 or 6 people came right behind us. We didn't even know they were on the path with us.
Exactly. It's
So
common.
that is kind of important to remember, is that there are actual people on the path with you that you might not even see,
Yeah.
but they're there and they
Yes.
see you. And so
Right.
here, you sharing your story and opening your mouth, it
Hmm.
heals you. The worst thing you can do is mute what's going on.
Yes. Indeed. So before we close, Jen, any last words for that mother who is struggling right now, who has gone through, these miscarriages and she feel like just giving up? Any message you would like to say to the couple? Because not only does the woman go through this, the
Yeah.
man, he goes through it as well.
The best thing I can say about this type of scenario is you have to let yourself grieve through that. Don't just chalk it off as to, oh, well, by the way, it happened, but it's no big deal. It
Hmm.
actually is quite a big deal. Just sit in that for a bit and let yourself feel all of it. And then if you want to do kind of like the exercise that I did that really helped me move forward, is that realizing whatever loss I may have had, they're actually still alive. Like
Yeah.
they're alive. They were alive in me and now they're alive somewhere else.
Right.
I think no matter what faith you are in, we always know there's something beyond, and there's
Oh yeah,
probably a
definitely.
reason why we have gone through the things that we've gone through, but it's just part of the human and spirit processes on this planet.
Hmm.
So if you need to stop and just have a moment where you need to grieve whatever it is, it could be like, in here's the really cool thing about this process is that if you confess everything out of your mouth, out of that's coming out of your heart,
Yes.
the higher power will take it.
Yes.
Give it to them. Give it to them, because it's not a confessing that it's your identity. It's confessing it out so you don't have to believe it or hold on to it anymore. You
Yes.
do not have to hold on to this belief you have about yourself. So release it out. And like I used to, I would say to I don't even have to say anything negative to myself. I just, you don't forgive yourself. Be honest about that. You know what? I'm mad at myself for this thing and I'm just mad. And then before you realize it, love's trying to knock on your door saying, you know what?
Yes.
I'm not mad at you and I love you and
Yes.
I want to be here with you in this.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I would suggest for people to do, is just the biggest challenge is to get quiet and take the technology out of the room, sit there with yourself and your spouse, whoever,
Yeah.
and y'all just walk through it together, talk
Yeah.
about it and confess the fears, confess the
Yes.
doubts, confess the hurt, because that it just all needs to come out. That's the only way
Yes.
that's the only way you can get stuff in, is to let it come out.
Yes, and true, because
So,
the scripture says it. If you confess with your mouth, He's faithful and just to forgive, to release that. So it is
yeah,
it is a fact. Now, here's what happens by not talking. By not talking, the other person too is going through, and you're not sharing. You put up a
you
wall.
can't
All right,
acknowledge
you
it.
put a
Yeah.
divide in your relationship, and unfortunately, some marriages end up in divorce. Why? Because we didn't talk about it. We think they should know. That no, please talk, share. All right. Don't shout it. Just take your time
Just get
and talk.
honest.
Don't turn
Yep.
it into an argument.
Yep.
All right. Put it in a environment that's conducive of healing and just let it birth. That's it.
And if you were someone like me who was so closed off and isolated, you're going to take everything personally for a while. So try to remove that out of the scenario, specifically for those of us who are super emotional.
Yeah.
Remember that this is not about you. This is about the person
It's
confessing
not
what they
about
need to
you.
say. They need to confess what they need to say, and it might hurt you for a second, but realize they need to get
Yes.
their stuff out too. So
Yes.
welcome to the process.
Yes. That's how it is. Before we can radiate, we had to get ugly. We had to
Yes.
get real ugly.
Yes.
All right. So thank you, Jen, so much for being here
You're very
on
welcome.
Emerge and Empower. Bye, everybody. I'm
Bye.
so happy that Jen was here today. See you, Jen. Bye bye.
Have a good day.
Okay. All right, everyone. So we have said goodbye to Jen as she was on here sharing her story of her emergence and how she has gone through three miscarriages, but one live birth. I know there are many women on here that have had that experience or actually might be going through that right now. And I want you to know that there is hope. Now, these stories are needed and necessary. These are a part of the confession, all right, in your truth. So if you are such person and you have a story to tell, know that Emerge and Empower is a platform that you can come on and share your stories. So until next time, we'll be back next week. Be blessed, everyone. Bye bye.